side we've got our clutches here. And I'll do the same thing. I'll flip this up so that you can see what we have here. Electric shift is here. 10mm bolt all the way around there. And then we're able just to pull that electric shift motor off there, make sure that O-ring is good, clean out any debris that's there so that seals up like it should. I've got a couple videos on tests to do with those electric shifts. So now around our clutch cover here, a whole bunch of 8mm bolts. All right, again, we'll put these in order. Your oil filter is here. We're going to take a rubber mallet now. A lot of times you can kind of hear how it sounds. If it sounds like it's hollow, that's a good thing. Your coupler can come off now for your drive shaft. We're able just to lift up. Try to lift up carefully just in case there's gears that stick like this here. We've got our Honda-matic here. Our clutch is your centrifugal clutch here, and this is for your shift mechanism here. Runs all the way through to the other side that we just dealt with there. So this shaft can come out at this point. I'm going to flip this up and kind of let the oil drain out of there. With that oil filter, it's always going to have some oil in there. So we've got our electric shift gear here. There's a really small gear. Again, a common problem for these to go bad because of how small those teeth are. Okay, we've got the Honda-matic here, our centrifugal clutch, and I've got the correct tools to pull this centrifugal clutch. It's going to show you how to remove this Honda-matic gear here, this assembly, as well as split the case. So the first thing we're going to do is remove this nut on the centrifugal clutch here. This is the inner pack here. That's going to be separate from the housing here. We've got a larger nut here that is dented in, dinged in to so that this nut doesn't work itself off. And so sometimes it can be a little bit of a challenge to get pulled off of there. I like to use an impact. It's an 1 1/16 socket. If you use an impact, it's not a challenge at all. I do like to take a rag though, still kind of hang on to it here while we pull that off. And you can see there's a groove on your actual crankshaft there that aligns with the groove that's on this nut here. So going back together then, just take a little punch and you'll just tap that nut there just to make an indent. That way it doesn't work itself off of there. I also like to Loctite these going back together just because you'd rather be safe than sorry. Now we've got the puller here, and I can get you these pullers if you are interested in one of these. Sometimes you can pull these off without any issues without a puller, but I like to use a puller just so you're not damaging anything by tapping on it with a hammer or prying on it with a screwdriver. So what you do with these pullers here, there's the bolt that runs right through the center of this puller here. I take and spin that on there, and you do have to do this if you're going to remove this Honda-matic gear here. So you can find the spot where it lines up, you start threading that on, you thread it on as far as it'll go, and then there's a place here to stick a wrench, you can tighten it on even farther. We were able to snug that in quite a few turns. We know that we're far enough on there to not pull these threads out of here. If you don't screw it on far enough, if you've only got a thread or two touching here, and you go to push this bolt in, and it'll actually pull this puller right off of this housing here, and then you've destroyed the threads on this centrifugal clutch. So this particular puller takes a 16mm, and you run it up like that, pushes against the crank, and then you can go ahead and pull that centrifugal clutch. And this is called the shoe housing here, the shoe pack. It's got springs and weights and shoes, and these do wear down here and need replaced, as well as this housing here gets grooved, and then this will need to be replaced as well. You can now at this time just take this off here. You've got a one-way bearing here, inspect it, make sure that's in good condition, and make sure when you put this centrifugal, this inner pack back in there, it should only spin one direction. So you see it spinning that way, doesn't spin clockwise, it only spins counterclockwise. So that's just something to note. Going back together, inspect that, make sure it's in good condition. You can see here my cam chain dropped down in here, and had I turned that crank over very much, it would have bound that cam chain in here, could potentially break this guide notch here, and so you want to make sure that you don't spin that crank over while that cam chain is sitting down there. 10 millimeters here to take this guide off here, and then we've got your